Auntie Mickey's house. Oh yeah, yeah. Auntie Mickey's house. Auntie's house. You're in the house. You know you're in the house. Come on in and grab a seat, grab a seat. Come on in and hit that light, hit that light. Oh, you're Aunt Mickey's house. Auntie Mickey's house. Grab a seat, prop your feet. Let's sip some tea, sip that tea. Entertainment, news, and spirituality. From the culture to the fun, Auntie sets the tone. Sets the tone. With a laugh and a truth, she holds the throne. She holds the throne, yeah. Auntie Mickey's house. Come on in now. Auntie Mickey's house. Auntie's house. You're in the house. You know you're in the house. Come on in and grab a seat, yeah, yeah. Come on in and hit that like, don't forget now. Auntie Mickey's house. She can roast with a smile, drop wisdom too. Break down the headlines, bring it straight to you, baby. Community strong, conversation grown. Real talk, baby. Auntie Mickey's house, make yourself at home, yeah. Come together, every voice is heard. Every voice, respect the vibe, let's share the word. Oh, yeah. From the jokes to the prayers, she keeps it real, Auntie Mickey's house, that's the deal, baby. Auntie Mickey's house, Auntie's house, oh yeah. Auntie Mickey's house, Auntie's house. Known in the house, you know you're in the house. Come on in and grab a seat, come on in and hit the light, You're at Auntie Mickey's, yeah. Auntie Mickey's house. Auntie Mickey's house. It's Auntie Mickey's house. Oh yeah. Auntie Mickey's house. Auntie's house. You're in her house. You know you're in her house. Come on in and grab a seat, Come on in and hit that light, Oh, you're at Auntie Mickey's. Auntie's house. Grab a seat, drop your feet, let's sip some tea. Entertainment, news, and spirituality. From the culture to the fun, Auntie sets the tone. With a laugh and a truth, she holds the throne. Auntie's house. Auntie's house. You know you're in a house. Come on in and grab a seat, yeah. Come on in and hit that light, don't forget. Auntie Mickey's. Auntie Mickey's house. Auntie Mickey's house, oh yeah. She can roast with a smile, drop wisdom too. Break down the headlines, bring it straight to you, baby. Community strong, conversation grown, don't talk, baby. Auntie Mickey's house, make yourself at home, yeah. Come together, every voice is heard, every voice. Respect the vibe, let's share the word, oh yeah. From the jokes to the prayers, she keeps it real, That's the deal, baby. Auntie Mickey's house, Auntie's house, oh yeah. You know you're in a house. Come on in and grab a seat, come on.
Sunday, y'all. I'm trying to get over yesterday. Happy Sunday! It's the end of the weekend. Tomorrow it starts all over again. But today we got another day. Another day to chill, at least. Hold on just a second. I don't want to sneeze in the camera. Oh, wait, there seems to be some pollen or something in the air. So please, if I have to jump off every now and then to sneeze or whatever, it's because this weather is tripping right now. Hello, Camille. Hello, Kendra. Hello, Shankrock. How are you? How you guys doing? Welcome to the house. Kick off your shoes. I hope you brought a beverage or something to snack on. Something. Gamer Code said, what are you doing? I am doing a live. That is what I'm doing. What are you doing? Oh my goodness. Camille, just putting you on notice. You're the only mod here so far. You know what to do when they start acting silly. I'm not going to go through what I went yesterday. I'm going to have to ignore the chat for a long period of time. Because I know my temper. But nevertheless, I'm going to control that. I'm going to keep it under control as much as I can, considering what we're talking about. But yes, as you can see, the title of today's live is What Let 'Em Talk Looks Like. Thank you, sweetheart. Thank you so much. What Let 'Em Talk Looks Like. And for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, we're talking about these young men that keep getting up on these interviews with Brandon Tatum. Hi, Satin. How are you, sweetheart? Good, I got 2 mods in the house. I'm going to need you both. Hello, adventurous you. I seen you earlier. How's it going, love? So, yesterday was very interesting. I don't know what it was. I just lost my temper. I had to end that live before I went smooth off. I can't do like other content creators that are so big that they can afford to go flying off the handle. You know, adventurous you knows what I'm talking about. We're going to leave it at that. But it ain't worth going into cardiac arrest about. I'll just put it like that. Make your point. Hey, people are going to take it or leave it. That's what I've had to come to the conclusion of. People are going to take your point or leave it. And, you know, we as content creators, we want everybody to agree with us. And, you know, that to a certain degree, that's not fair either. You can't expect everybody that comes into your space to, running up the blood pressure. You can't expect everybody to agree with you. You know, people are going to disagree. Now, my philosophy about that is if you're in my spot and you don't agree with me and you want to sit here and argue with me, I'm not going to sit here and argue with you. I'm going to do one of 2 things. I'm going to either boot you out, tell you to leave, or ignore you. One of the 3. But if they get too nasty, they just might get cussed out before they get booted out. You know, because again, this is still somebody else's house. If you want to put your opinion out there in the atmosphere, by all means, start a channel. You can do all that. If you start your own channel and you can do all of that. But to go into somebody else's house and it's like going in there with shoes on. And they don't want you wearing the shoes in the house. But you're going to wear them anyway. Come on now. That's disrespectful. But anyway, I'm not going to get off into that because, you know, again, I'm not going to run up my blood pressure behind foolishness. But I just thought it was very interesting. I looked at some other things aside from what's been talked about. Being out there, you know, what the guys are saying and all this stuff. I wanted to kind of change up a little bit. Just a little bit. You know, can't stray too far away from what we're talking about. You know, because then you lose the whole gist of what we're talking about. But There's something that the old folks used to tell us a long time ago, and this is let them talk long enough and they'll tell on themselves. And sometimes you have to do that. You have to let people talk long enough to tell on themselves, if there is anything to tell on themselves about. And again, we don't know what happened to Nolan. That's the saddest part of all this. We got people going at each other's throats about this situation for a number of reasons. Some people just want to move on, and you have the right to do that. Move on. Don't get on nobody's platform talking about it. Don't go into somebody's chat listening to them talk about it. If you really want to move on, move on. Now, those are for the move-oners, okay? Because there's several different categories of people that are invested in this story. Some people genuinely feel like those young men are innocent. They are they are ride or die. Those young men are innocent. Okay, that's a different category of people. There's a category of people that believe 100% that they're guilty, that they actually unalived Nolan. And again, we don't know that for sure. We don't know that because the investigation has not been completed. What we also know, now that's the third category of people. There's a category of people that want to say that these young men are guilty simply because they're white. That's not a good reason. Sorry. Okay? That's not a good reason to accuse them of being guilty simply because they were the white boys and Nolan was the black dude. Okay? That's not a good enough reason. Now, you can have that reason, that just doesn't, it means it's not good enough. You need more than that in terms of the legalities of it all. You can't go to a court of law and say, Your Honor, these guys did it. I'm confident that they did it because they are Caucasian. Nope, that's not going to fly with a judge. You got to come with more than that. You got to come with more than that. You got to have evidence that they physically did it. And that's number 4. Number 5, I think the major point of contention with a lot of us is the history of the state that this took place in. The history of Mississippi has pretty much been, or has a long-standing reputation for being extremely racist against black people. We can't ignore it. White folks can't ignore it. Black folk can't ignore it. Nobody can ignore that. That is a fact. And if we're going to deal with facts, let's look at that fact. Let's look at that fact. Don't discount that fact. Because a lot of racism is also passed down generation to generation. Hold on just a second. Adventurous You said, I still say it's a lot that is not right in regards from one side to the other. And see, that is your aspect, and that's a valid aspect. That's a valid opinion. But when people get in here and start to literally attacking people because they don't agree and calling them out their names and stuff like that, that's ridiculous. That's childish. Okay, that's extremely childish. And what you end up getting in return is the same vitriol you spit out. Hello, Devon. Devonna, I'm sorry, Devonna, I need to turn up the volume on my glasses. Hold on. Let me turn up the volume because I couldn't see her name. Okay. How's it going, sweetheart? Kendra Roberts said, give them the rope and they will hung themselves. The truth will come out. Not now, then later. I'm just down for the truth. Absolutely. And that's what I think the majority of us want, is the truth. I'm not in this thing to say, see, I told you. I'm not getting no gratification out of being right. It saddens me that we're talking about it to begin with. I'm sad that this young man lost his life unnecessarily. That's what's really sad. He lost his life. He had a bright future. And he lost his life unnecessarily. Be it someone took it from him, or something else nefarious that he had no control over. I hate the fact that they're painting a picture of this young man to be something that he wasn't. Deep down in my heart, I know for a fact, in my heart, I don't know this young man from Adam, but I will say this, based on what his parents have said, and the people that he was involved with in school, his teachers, his other friends, all of these people spoke very, very highly of him. But in this particular situation, they're trying to paint a picture of him that he's just sloppy drunk and on drugs, which is a vast contrast from what others have said. As a matter of fact, his coach, who saw him that day, that afternoon, said he was fine. He wasn't drunk. So we have an eyewitness that says he wasn't drunk. But we've got people out here that's been painting that narrative quite early in this situation. It is sickening. It's sickening. And why would you do that? What do you stand to gain as a person sitting in the comment line saying these things? You don't know that young man either. You know. Adventurous says how it's looking the truth is being withheld. It's sad that no one is being investigated from the harassment of Nolan's family, all behind no information wasn't given to officials. I can't believe that. This whole case is shocking. The way that it's being handled, the way that they just dropped the ball from the giddy up. When that sheriff walked out that door, not even an hour after Nolan had been found, and said, "We found no reason to believe foul play. It was an accidental drowning." He specifically said accidental drowning. And you haven't investigated nothing? Nothing? Somebody didn't do their job. Now that's just him. But that's where it starts from. It starts right there. That's where the controversy started, right there. Along with the behavior of these young men. I'm not going to excuse their behavior. I don't care what nobody says. You don't know what happened with them. I know what they did. I know that they erased their social media. I know their parents did. It looks suspicious. It looks suspicious. All this other stuff in the background, people fighting at Horn Island and all this stuff is just fluff. And it's probably, there's some bits and pieces that are critical in the story itself. But if you step back and look at the main picture, this young man lost his life and people are spending more time defaming him than trying to help get to the bottom of what happened. People want to dismiss it. And that's the problem. This is why we're going so hard in the paint for this young man, because this is how it's been going down for decades when it comes to black people being unalived by Caucasian people. That's why it became racial, because this is just another story that sounds like the others. Here comes another one just like the other one. Kick it. And then to turn around, throw a rock, hide your hand, and accuse black people of making it racial. Really? You can call it what you want. You can call it what you want. Stop being black. That can't happen, hon. that can't happen. But like I said, I'm not gonna let the people in the comments lines piss me off to the point where it gets me off my game. It's not gonna happen today. Hello, Carmela. How are you, love? And Chris Hillman, welcome. I've never seen you here before. So let me do some housework since I see you here. And for anyone else who might come in who's never been here before, if you've never been here before, let me just welcome you first. And then let you know that you are free to have a difference of opinion. Everybody has a difference of opinion, okay? But what I won't tolerate is being disrespectful in my chat or disrespectful against me, okay? And to make assumptions about people without knowing them up in this space. Now, Chris Hillman says if they were all black, you wouldn't care. How the hell do you know what I would care about? How do you know what I would care about and what I wouldn't care about? See, that's called hypocrisy, sir. Or ma'am, whatever the hell you are. So you're going to be the first one I boot out today. How about that? Okay? Now, that's going to be the last one I pay attention to. I'm not going to let assholes come in here and disrupt this live. Okay? I'm not going to do it. So, like I said, let them speak enough and they'll tell on themselves if there's anything to tell. Point blank, period. If there is anything to tell. Because, honest, as quiet as it's kept, somebody else could have done something. And those boys might have seen it and might be scared. That's a possibility. They might have seen something that scared the shit out of them. You see what I'm saying? Hold on just a second. Okay. Had to fix the screen. So there's all kinds of, what ifs. All kinds of what ifs. But like I said earlier, the trolls, they're having a ball with this. Let them have a ball. They don't get nothing out of it but, some kind of gratification I don't want to know about. This might be the only sexual gratification they get in life. So if that's what gets you off, go do you, boo-boo. Okay? But what I'm going to start out with, I thought it was very interesting. I saw Willie D Live. I love Willie D Live. He breaks it down. He doesn't have to get all fancy schmancy. Okay? He gets his point across, point blank, period. So I'm going to share this video with you. And let's see, where is it at? Okay. Let me see if this is the right one. Yep, that's it. And in the meantime, let me turn down the music because I know that's a distraction as well. And just be forewarned, I'm not having no big discussions with people in the chat today. You can chill here and watch the content, or you can keep it pushing. Don't make me no difference. Let's see. Devon says, Auntie, I don't understand why folks whom know your topics come in and speak ignorance, just not listen or watch, just mentally disturbed. Well, and that's just it. A lot of these people that are coming in here, they ain't never been here before. They see the subject and they come in because we know, who's attracted to this and want to be combative. That's what they do. They want to shake the cart, so to speak. So it ain't gonna happen here. I'm sorry. I'm not paying these folks no mind. No more. They can kick rocks. Okay, I just want to make this screen just a little bit bigger so you guys can see the video, because sometimes it has a tendency to get too small. Okay. Hold on just a second. Okay, let me go here. right, folks, here we go.
His alleged best friend let Warren tell it. His best friend. He left him on an island all by himself. Told him, hey man, get home the best way you can, so to speak. Next thing you know, Nolan comes up missing. Next thing you know, Nolan body is discovered dead just 2 days later on July 6th. And ever since then, Warren has been given multiple detailed public interviews. Every interview, what Warren does not understand, creates a statement that can be checked. Oh yeah. Now, it's important to note, a contradiction doesn't prove guilt, but important contradictions deserve explanations.
And that is a fact. That's what's called a fact right there. Important contradictions, they deserve explanations. Don't put something out there that is controversial and you don't want nobody clapping back at it because they don't agree with it or you don't agree with them. Expect to have a debate about it, so to speak.
And I got somebody who's going to offer an explanation here. This is Attorney Keith. Check out what he has to say about all of this.
Hey, TikTok, it's Keith the lawyer. I get kind of sucked into these cases. I make one video and then I see another thing. Oh, I need to comment on that too, and so on and so on. So I don't know if this is going to turn into some kind of series or if it's...
You guys, I apologize. He's talking so fast. That's not because I've got it turned up fast. He just talks really, really fast.
This will be the last one. But I want to comment again on what is happening with this Nolan Wells case. And particularly what is going on with his supposed best friend, Warren Hudson, who seems to be a person of interest. I don't know if he's actually under suspicion or what, but his name seems to be thrown around a lot whenever people are talking about the case. And I mentioned yesterday that he was committing the classic blunder of talking to the cops when no defendant or suspected defendant, almost defendant, maybe defendant, no person like that should be talking to the cops in any respect whatsoever. But what this Warren Hudson guy is doing is actually the worst of all. He is creating a trap for himself. If he had any involvement, if he is remotely connected, he is creating a trap normally that law enforcement sets for you, but he is setting it for himself. And what he's doing is he is making statements. He is making specific statements about specific things that happen. I'm talking particularly here about his latest statement of, we tried to get Nolan to get on the boat. We begged him to get on the boat. He wouldn't get on the boat. It's things like this. You are locking yourself down to specific facts. And what law enforcement does from that point is they either verify or disprove those specific facts. And once you start poking holes in somebody's story, what that leads to is statements of, oh, well, that's not what I meant. What I meant was this. You make another statement, they poke holes in that, and so on and so on.
Thank you, Adventurous You. I just started talking. What I wanted to point out is that what this gentleman is saying is absolutely true. When you are involved in any shape, form, or fashion in a situation where you could be implicated in any way of being involved, okay? If you can be implicated in any way, your attorneys will tell you, shut up, don't talk, don't say nothing, for the very reasons that he just gave. Now, this dude, he's an attorney. He'll be the first to tell you, or any other client, do not talk to authorities, especially at this point in time in the game. This is still under investigation. No one has been arrested. No one is I mean, none of that. There's been no arrests whatsoever. Okay? So, I just felt that it was kind of strange that because Warren's stepmother is a judge, why she wouldn't even give this information to the boys. What is their angle in speaking when in any other case you would be told, do not speak to the press, do not speak to law enforcement, and I mean, unless of course they come to you, and it's just, oh God, but let's continue.
Classic law enforcement behavior, but this Warren Hudson guy is doing it for them. The cops just have to sit back and watch. Now, it's possible this guy had absolutely nothing to do with it, but if he did, if he is remotely involved, if he has information, he is committing just a classic blunder. He needs to keep his mouth shut. Don't talk to the cops. Don't go on a podcast and talk about it. It just boggles the mind sometimes what people do, things that they're not supposed to do. Anyhow, those are my thoughts. What are yours? Tell me in the comments. I appreciate everybody watching. This is Keith the Lawyer.
Okay, so with that said, let me bring up what Jared said. Jared said, from Nolan's family lawyer to police, thank you for following up with us regarding the threats and or intimidation against Nolan's family. And I was glad to hear that. I was very, very glad to hear that, because what we were hearing beforehand was that the young men were getting all the threats. The young men were being harassed. The 3 arrests were pertaining to the judge and things of that nature. But nothing came out about all the threats that the family has been receiving. So I'm glad that at least that was brought out today. Okay, let me get rid of, wait, did he say something else I wanted to hear? I wanted y'all to hear. No, I think that was it. I think it was just that part that I wanted y'all to hear, because there is more to talk about. Okay. So what I'm trying to do at this point in time, hi Cece, how you doing, love? What I'm trying to do at this point in time is I'm trying my damnedest to stick to actual facts. Okay. I don't know what happened specifically to Nolan, but the facts are that Nolan wound up dead. That's one fact that is indisputable. Okay. That's a fact. Whether it was initially intentionally done or remains to be seen, that is a fact. However, my gut has always told me that Nolan's phone is the key. Nolan's phone is the key to this. And I'm not sure in what way, but I would think that the contents of that phone, there's something on that phone that has played a big part of all the hoopla. Hello, Darlene. How are you, love? So yeah, the phone is very central to all of this. But if Nolan was unalived by accident, that may be considered just that, an accident. What would be a crime, though, let's be real, what would be a crime is covering up. That is a crime. See, that's where the line may have been crossed. The cover up. If it's a cover up. If let's just throw a scenario out there. These young men didn't have to necessarily do anything to him intentionally. There could have been something on the island, on the boat, or wherever that caused him to be unalived, and they may have been involved through horseplay or something like that. However, Nolan ends up dead. Okay. With that said, covering up this accident becomes a crime if you try to cover it up, rather than to go to the police and tell them, listen, this is what happened. We were clowning around, or, you know, we were doing this, that, and the third. And I mean, man, it is, I'm so sorry. You know, we want to express our condolences to the family. It's the movements of the boys that, I don't want to call them boys. It's the movements of these young men that have caused me pause. That's the issue. Okay, Jared said, who has Nolan's phone in their possession? Have they independently done their own forensics on the phone? The answer to that is, at this particular time, the family still has the phone. There is this huge back and forth going on between the DA and the attorneys, and I'm going to cover that later on in this live stream. It's gotten kind of strange. We're going to put it like that, in terms of movements of the DA. Okay, so that's the but nobody, they haven't done their own forensics on the phone, to answer your question. Okay. But here's another question that I have, and nobody's really talking about this very much. Okay. But we are here to consider the facts as much as possible. Okay. One of those questions I have is, why didn't the Coast Guard respond to Warren's first call to them? It is factual. It is a fact that he called the Coast Guard after he spoke with Nolan's mom. Why won't the Coast Guard disclose what was conveyed in that first call that would lead the Coast Guard, you know, the circumstances that didn't require urgency? Why did they not consider that an urgent call? That is fact. They didn't consider it fact. Or, I'm sorry, they didn't consider it urgent enough for them to go check and find Nolan. Hello, Bradley Spalding. Welcome. How are you, love? So, according to Warren spoke with the Coast Guard for 20 minutes. This is a fact. This is a known fact. He said so in his interview. And it's safe to say that Warren is the main guy talking, you know, to the public, right? He's the talking piece, more so than the others. That's a fact. He's out there more so than the rest of them. Another fact is that his stepmother is a judge. That's a fact. We're trying to stick with as many facts as possible. But why didn't the Coast Guard go out to search? Why did they wait until another 13 hours or so after Warren called them? That's a fact. That's a fact. Hello, Pause. How are you? Okay, Doodlebird. How you doing, sweetie? So, with that said, let me share this interview with you, because I don't want y'all to think I'm just talking off the side of my neck. Okay. Hold on just a second.
I feel like it was just a big, I talked to Nolan, and, you know, Nolan was drinking. Everybody was drinking, most of everybody. And I mean, Nolan seemed completely fine every time I talked to him. We had just regular conversations, and, you know, Nolan was making me laugh. I had a couple conversations with Nolan and Javon, Nolan and my buddy James, Nolan. And I mean, I could tell you, I mean, I talked to Nolan a couple times, but it wasn't like I was strictly sitting there talking to Nolan the whole day. I mean, there was hundreds of people I knew out there. So,
yeah. And Nolan said something interesting. You told me about this. Something he said to you, I would say would be indicative of y'all's friendship.
Right.
And then he also mentioned something to you about that particular day and what it meant to him.
Right.
And could you share that?
Right. Yeah. So Nolan and my buddy Javon are talking, and I grew up with Nolan, and Nolan's just like I said, like just so joyful, like always happy. Like every picture I have with Nolan or picture I have of Nolan, he's smiling. I mean, like he's always happy. If I always need like a shed of light, I'm calling Nolan. And Nolan and I laugh and.
Thank you, Doodoo Bird, for the $9.99 super chat. I appreciate you, sweetheart. You have a wonderful time out there. If you kicking it today, have a great time. It's good to see you, sweetheart. Let's see, Jared King. Let me put this up. If it is the responsibility of anyone who witnessed Nolan's death to come forward, wouldn't it be the responsibility of whoever has the phone to come forward with evidence it was wiped? You would think so. You would think so. But if you have possession of the phone and you don't make that readily available information, then who's responsible first? You see what I'm saying? This is where it gets murky. This is where it gets murky. I'm sorry, here, let me go back.
Joke a lot. Like that's how our friend group is. We're really jokingly laugh. No one takes anything that serious. We enjoy our time together. I mean, there's never any awkwardness within our friend group. We're very, very tight. So if I ever need to get something off my chest or talk to anybody, I'm talking to all my friends. I'm not just talking to like specifically anybody. I would go out, like even if I'm having issues with something, I go talk to my group chat, and my guys are there to, give me a hand anytime I need it. And all my guys are, all my buddies are the same exact way. Nolan was the same exact way. If you ever need something, I'm here, man. Like that's how he was. So.
And then you guys get ready to leave prematurely.
Right.
And like, explain that, because you guys got there around 10.
Yeah.
It's now 4:30.
Right.
People are still out there partying and
Right.
they're having a good time, but something happened to where it necessitated you guys to get the boat up and running. Can you explain that?
Yeah.
Okay, you guys help me out here, because I might have passed up this part. But in this particular interview, Warren specifically said, stuff happens. People die all the time. I know people that have died out there. Do you guys recall hearing that? Put a 1 in the chat if you heard him say that, because I can go backward and try to find it. Because that's why I wanted to not pay attention to the chat. I wanted to stay on top of this particular interview, and I may have missed it. Okay, so we got 2 people so far that can verify that was said by Warren. Warren said, stuff happens. People die all the time. I know people that have died out there. And I thought that was very interesting for him to say. So what that caused me to do is it caused me to go to one of my friends, ChatGPT. That's one of my best friends. Thank you, Joyce. Thank you. Let me go ahead and I'm gonna get this off, because I know I'll take forever trying to find that little snippet, but trust me, it's there. But I'm gonna share my screen again, because I thought this was important. So my question was this. It said, how many documented deaths have there been at Horn Island over the past 10 years? I was just curious. And this is what ChatGPT answered me. It says, I searched specifically for documented deaths at or immediately adjacent to Horn Island, Mississippi, during roughly the last 10 years, 2016 to 2026. What I can verify from publicly accessible news and government sources is at least 2 deaths tied to Horn Island. 2. Jordan King, who was 29 years old, he died on August 24th, 2025. He was of Pascagoula. He died after a swimming accident near the west end of Horn Island. He reportedly jumped into shallow water and was pulled out by others, who performed CPR. The deputy coroner specifically said it was not believed to be a drowning. Now that kind of caught me off guard right there. I was like, what? Although the cause had not yet been determined when the story was published. And the other person, of course, is Nolan Xavier Wells, 18, July 6, 2026. It says Wells disappeared while visiting Horn Island July 4th and was found dead in the water near the northwestern/western tip of Horn Island on July 6th. His independent autopsy subsequently listed cause and manner as undetermined pending investigation. This was the first autopsy done by the state of Mississippi. Let's go further. According to ChatGPT, it says, what's interesting, I could find another clearly documented Horn Island death from 2016 through 2024. I'm sorry. I misspoke. I couldn't find another clearly documented Horn Island death from 2016 through 2024 in the searchable news archives I checked. That does not necessarily mean there weren't any. Okay? We're just trying to be fair. Some boating/swimming deaths may have been recorded by the Coast Guard, Mississippi Department of Marine Sources, National Park Service, or coroner without appearing in searchable news coverage, or may have been described generally as occurring near the Mississippi Barrier Islands rather than specifically at Horn Island. There's another point that's particularly relevant to what you've been researching. Jackson County Coroner Bruce Lind has said that there have been drownings out in the Barrier Islands many times over the years, while discussing the currents around the northwest end of Horn Island. But that's a statement about the Barrier Islands collectively, not documentation of repeated drownings specifically at Horn Island. So, based on what I can currently document, I would not say publicly that Horn Island has a long recent history of drownings. The evidence I've found so far doesn't establish that. Now, this is according to ChatGPT. These are not my words. Okay? If you want, I can dig considerably deeper. Coast Guard casualty records, National Park Service incident reports, Mississippi DMR records, and older local newspaper archives from 2016 to 26. Okay, so let me pull up what Paul said. Warren knows exactly what happened to Nolan, was on that boat with him, and other people. Ain't no way in the world they don't know what happened. BS, a 2-year-old child won't believe Warren and the other. Okay. You can hear through the way Warren talks, keep on saying how close him and Nolan were. That's not taking out the fact that they know exactly what happened to Nolan. They have been schooled by their parents. That's a safe assumption to have, love. That's a safe assumption to have. So let me go a little further with this, because ChatGPT offered to dig considerably deeper. So I told him, yes, go right ahead, okay? ChatGPT says, I dug substantially deeper this time, searching combinations of Horn Island, plus drowning, death, body recovered, boating accident, Coast Guard, National Park Service, coroner, missing swimmer, and individual years from 2016 through 26. What I can actually document, this is it right here. I can still verify only 2 deaths specifically occurring at or immediately off Horn Island during the past 10 years. The same 2 individuals I just pointed out. I found no additional publicly documented Horn Island deaths for 2016 through 24 despite searching those years individually. Okay? And I bring all that up because Mr. Warren says stuff happens, people die all the time. I know people that have died out there. How old is he? 19? How old is he? 19? People die all the time. I know people that have died out there. So here we are now. We got more questions than answers. Hey baby, I see you. How you doing, love? Hello, Rosella. So again, I ask, how old is he? He's what, 19? Now, if he was a little older, I might say, well, you know, he's been around a while. He probably has seen quite a few deaths out there. But we're talking what he just said. I know people that have died out there. 18, he's 18 or 19, Rosella. Either way it goes, he ain't old. We'll put it like that. He ain't old. Thank you, Bradley. You know, I mean, honestly, if you're going to talk like if you're going to talk with your chest, you better make sure you got enough chest to hold up your story. Okay? So, that's where I am with that. I mean, I could have gone further. I think you're getting my point, because I'm not going to keep y'all on here all day, honestly. I'm not going to keep you here all day. Let's see. Let me see how much. Oh, you know what? There is a little bit more that I need to show you. I found no additional publicly documented Horn Island deaths for 2016 to 24, despite searching those years individually. That's important because Horn Island isn't just an unnamed patch of shoreline. It's part of the Gulf Islands National Seashore and federally managed wilderness. So significant search and rescue events can involve the National Park Service, Coast Guard, Mississippi DMR, and local authorities. The NPS itself warns visitors about the difficulty of visiting the remote island, including the lack of water, shelter, facilities, and communications. Okay, Satin? But there's an important distinction. This doesn't prove that exactly 2 people died there. Let's be fair. It establishes something narrower. I can presently find only 2 Horn Island deaths documented in publicly searchable sources during the last decade. There could be incidents buried in Coast Guard case files, NPS incident management records, DMR boating records, Jackson County coroner records, or newspaper archives that aren't indexed online. Where is it at? And there's another distinction worth emphasizing in the Nolan Wells discussion. Deaths at Horn Island. Deaths at Horn Island doesn't necessarily mean drownings at Horn Island. Of the 2 deaths I cannot document, Jordan King's was specifically described by the deputy coroner as not a drowning, while Nolan Wells' cause of death remains undetermined. So at this point, I have not found a single confirmed drowning death at Horn Island itself in the past 10 years. I'll say that again, because ChatGPT, he got it going on. So at this point, I have not found a single confirmed drowning death at Horn Island itself in the last 10 years. That makes the broader claim that the northwest end of Horn Island has a documented history of fatal drownings, something I'd want actual records to substantiate, not simply statements that the Mississippi Barrier Islands generally can have dangerous currents. The next and probably most revealing step would be to track down Coast Guard / NPS rescue and fatality records for Horn Island, including non-fatal drownings and rescues. That would tell us whether people are actually being swept away or repeatedly rescued in the particular area where Nolan was found, rather than relying on general descriptions of the water there. So, I said yes, let's do it. It thereby goes into saying yes. I went further into the actual Coast Guard record, and this gives us a much better picture. I searched Horn Island incidents year by year for 2016 to 2026 and specifically looked for rescues, drownings, overturned boats, missing swimmers / boaters, and fatalities. What the Coast Guard records actually show. I found 2 significant Coast Guard rescues at Horn Island in just the last few years, but neither involved a drowning death. October 7th, 2023, 8 people in the water. A vessel overturned near Horn Island. A Coast Guard aircraft located 8 people holding on to the overturned boat. 7 were adults and 1 was a child. Only the child was wearing a life jacket. All 8 survived, and the Coast Guard reported no significant medical problems. The next one would be July 29, 2024, 2 stranded boaters. The Coast Guard found an empty 14-foot boat drifting near Horn Island. The occupants had become separated from the vessel and spent the entire night stranded on Horn Island. A Coast Guard helicopter located them on the beach the next day. Both survived without injury. I'm going to stop right there because that just made me think about something. The Coast Guard found an empty 14-foot boat drifting near Horn Island. Let me go further. The occupants had become separated from the vessel and spent, check this out, y'all, spent the entire night stranded on Horn Island. Let me stop right there. When it was realized by Warren, according to his words, let's just say he realized, it just occurred to him or whatever, somewhere in the area of 11 o'clock when he contacted Nolan's mother. Okay, you guys following me? 11 o'clock he contacted Nolan's mother, even though he knows that they have possession of the phone. And he had not disclosed that to her until she says, I'm finding him pinging on land. Then he says, oh, well, we have his phone. Okay, we all know that. Excuse me. That's a fact. And then he said, calm down. He's going to be okay. We're going to find him. I know somebody with the Coast Guard. And so he says that he's going to call the Coast Guard. And this was shortly sometime after he talked to Nolan's mother. It's still 11-ish, maybe 11:20-ish. Who knows? It's somewhere after 11 o'clock that he contacted Coast Guard. This is why Coast Guard keeps ringing out in my head. He contacted the Coast Guard, but the Coast Guard, for whatever reason, did not feel the need to go out to Horn Island to search for a missing person. They can't say because, oh, it was late at night, it was dark. We don't, we don't do those kinds of things until the morning or daylight or whatever. Right here, it says a Coast Guard helicopter located them on the beach the next day. Both survived without injury, but they spent the entire night stranded on Horn Island. And according to the facts in terms of when they went out there, they didn't go out there until after 12 o'clock the next day. So what was said to the Coast Guard that would make them think that it's not an emergency enough for them to go out there? So did Warren say, oh, we think that maybe he might be laid out on somebody's couch? I mean, that's something that he said earlier in another conversation. Is that what he said to the Coast Guard that would cause them not to go out? Because that's kind of, if you're concerned about your friend, nobody's heard from him, but you have his phone. See, those are the things that make them look really suspicious. You have his phone. How's he going to contact his mother if he has no phone to contact her, if he's on an island that you claim you left him on? Let's go with the premise that they did in fact leave him. Let's just go with that premise. I mean, if that was my friend, I wouldn't leave him out there to begin with. But second of all, if I am going to leave him out there, I'm not going to leave him out there without a means of communication or his clothes. I mean, they can do all these other things that they want. They can go party at night. You couldn't go back and take him his phone. Those are the things, those are the questions in my mind. That's all I'm saying. Those are the questions in my mind. Let's go down here. Then we get to the deaths. August 24th, 2025, Jordan King, 29. Of course, he died on Horn Island. And again, July 6th, Nolan Wells died on Horn Island. So the documented picture I've been able to establish is, according to ChatGPT, this is what they say. Boat overturned 2023. No deaths. People involved 8. 2024, boaters separated from a vessel stranded overnight. People involved 2. No deaths. Then we've got 2025, Jordan King, swimming accident. People involved 1. Death 1. 26, Nolan Wells. People involved 1. Death 1. It says here, and I still have not located a publicly documented confirmed drowning fatality at Horn Island between 2016 and Nolan's death in 2026. Okay, I think I saw something in here. I promised I wasn't going to pay attention to the chat, but let me see. Carl Snow said a 62-year-old drowned in 2018 near Horn. Okay. Do you know if that was publicized at all, love? And, yeah, when is a drowning non-fatal? That's a good one. Okay. Let's see. Paz said, then one of them lied to Nolan's dad 3 times about the car keys until one of the girls was over there on the phone with him and said that Nolan's keys was by the TV. Oh yeah, on the Game Boy or on his one of those game stations or something like that. One of them games they play. You know I don't play them games, so I got grandkids and kids that play, but I don't. Then Carl Snow says, I've lived in Corinth, Mississippi all my life, and the barrier islands are dangerous waters. Certain times of the day, especially at night, you misjudge distances and become overconfident in your stamina. And that's understandable too. I can see that happening. Absolutely. Okay, so let me see. Is there anything further I need to pull up. It doesn't go into any specifics about the currents or anything like that. Let's see. Yeah, I'm gonna let this. Yeah, that's a lot of information that I've already brought up. Okay. So, of course, here we are now. We're in the midst of, you know, what we're dealing with right now. A whole lot of accusations and nuances and all this stuff. Jesus. And we know all about the CETO and the, yeah, I just wonder why the Coast Guard didn't go out there. What information? And see, that's another thing. They did backtrack their information. And I thought I had that public announcement. But again, the Coast Guard is being very tight-lipped about that call that they got from I want to keep saying Nolan, Warren. When Warren called the Coast Guard, what did that conversation sound like? You know what I mean? So again, I don't know one way or another. So, but what I will do, because here's some information that you guys may not have heard yet. So I'm going to pull up Trent Out Loud. Hold on a second. How come that didn't go away? Okay. I'm going to go ahead and share this with you. Because this is very interesting right here. I mean, it's no coincidence that a lot of people are looking at Mississippi side-eyed. It was recorded, but Buck made a very valid point. He says it seems like a call to the Coast Guard would be recorded. And you think it would, but they sure ain't releasing it. That looks strange to me. No documentation indicating what was said, no recording is being released, nothing. Just acknowledgement that a call was made. Okay? Very, very odd, yes. Again, this is what you would normally hear in any other state. We're not hearing it going on in Mississippi. It's a small town. Okay? And quite frankly, in my opinion, this thing needs to go outside of the state's jurisdiction. Out of all fairness. Yes, Carl, I agree. Carl Snow says it's just so sad a young, talented, and loved young man was taken from everyone too soon. And that's the saddest part of all of this. That's the saddest part of all this. His mother and father, his siblings, oh my God, the hell that they've got to be going through is immeasurable. But you know what? God is good. God is so good. And he'll give you exactly what you need in terms of strength. He is giving it to them, especially Christine, his mother. And we're not gonna push daddy aside either. I'm really getting tired of people calling him his stepdaddy. And first of all, that's his biological father, number one. Number two, what difference does it make anyway? This man was Nolan's father. Point blank, period. Why do people insist on creating some kind of stupid narrative that wasn't Nolan's real daddy? What difference does it make? It doesn't make any difference. That man loved Nolan just as much as Nolan loved him. Point blank, period. That man is grieving just as much as that mother is. And not enough is being given in terms of his strength. We're not recognizing that man's strength enough. Exactly, Mecca. look like I mean, you talk about somebody that looked just like daddy. He looked just like his daddy. But the strength that that man has to have to hold it together. And you can tell in his eyes that he's lost a major piece of his soul. And I pray that I just pray more and more for him. I pray for the whole family. Honestly. I pray for the whole family. But everything is being said. Christine. Yes, it's as a mother, that would rip any mother's heart out of her chest. But daddy is special too, in his own way. They have their own purpose in a young person's life. And I just can't stand to see the differentiation that people play and all the, it bothers me. It just bothers me. It bothers me. Because when I lost my son, me and my husband both grieved equally. And for this particular story to be out there and you constantly hear Christine, yes, mother is definitely grieving, definitely. But damn it, don't leave daddy out of it. Don't you dare leave daddy out of it. Okay, before I get upset, let me let me go share this video with y'all. Hey, Lady of Elegance, how are you, sweetheart?
The District Attorney of Mississippi sent a correspondence August the 12th to Nolan Wells' estate and Nolan Wells' family. And while that correspondence has not been made public, the reply to said correspondence to me implies corruption and a cover-up. I have retained the August 13th letter in response to the August 12th correspondence from the DA. And in this reply to the DA, I feel it is, in my opinion, that Nolan Wells' estate is alluding to a cover-up and an injustice done by the Mississippi DA.
And I've got to agree with it. I'm going to stop shutting up right now. I am completely down with that statement. I really am. Because like they said, if it looked like a duck, walk like a duck, talk like a duck. Matter of fact, ducks don't talk, they quack. And I'm hearing a lot of quacking right about now. I mean, for real, for real. Hello, Rena Davis. How you doing, sweetie? Oh, thank you, Carl. Thank you. It's been 8 years and it's still hard. And he wasn't 18, he was 33. So I can just imagine what that mother's dealing with for a child to be so young and so full of promise and such a future ahead of him. That's just, I don't know if I could ever recover from that, honestly. But like I said, God is good. And God only puts on us what we can bear. And clearly she's strong enough to bear it. Daddy is strong enough to bear it. And them kids are strong enough to bear it. But Lord have mercy. I thank you, though. It was hard. It's still hard.
Before I break that down to you, I would like to take a second to revisit a press conference held on July the 15th, where Benjamin Crump lets us, the public, know of an agreement made between Nolan Wells' estate, family, and legal team. Then we will move on to an August 11th letter, then the August 12th correspondence, and then we will come back to this August the 13th letter. I am going to start off by presenting my case with a video from July the 15th, where Benjamin Crump and Nolan Wells' parents just came out of a meeting with the Mississippi DA. And here is what Benjamin Crump said.
You guys, they ain't playing fair. This is why the parents did not trust the state of Mississippi from the jump, because they are not playing fair, and they are definitely showing their hand. Okay?
Pay very close attention to two key sentences. We also agreed, AKA they had an agreement in place, and also at the same time.
We also agreed that we would have a mutual inspection of the cell phone with our experts and their experts. Attorney Eric Hertz is helping lead the investigation team with former law enforcement experts who are going to help us with the cell phone download. So everybody will be able to see at the same time.
Now I will draw your attention to a letter from Nolan Wells' estate lawyer and representative at.
Why would you think that they want to see it at the same time? Because you don't trust them. They know that. The state of Mississippi knows that this family does not trust them. This is why they hired Ben Crump to begin with. And the man is, hey, he's playing chess, sweetie. Satin, you ain't never lied. Ben Trump is playing chess. See, he's not coming out here making all these assumptions and accusations and stuff. He's being, you hardly hear from him. So when you hear from him, it's something substantial and definitely, something to pay attention to. This isn't just some interview on a podcast from some, who. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I wouldn't trust them either. And they're playing their hand right now.
On behalf of Nolan Wells and his parents and family. Now, I have shown you this letter before, so I'm not going to read it in its entirety, but I am going to highlight one paragraph, and then I'll explain to you why they had to send this letter August the 11th. This letter was to the District Attorney of Mississippi. As the legal team has stated previously, including during our in-person meeting, which I just showed you a video from July the 15th, we have been and remained ready and willing to cooperate in arranging a joint forensic inspection of Nolan Wells' personal cell phone. During that meeting, July the 15th, we specifically discussed having the examination conducted through a digital forensic lab in Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College, as well as the possibility of FBI involvement in that process. Our position has not changed. You guys could pause and read the rest if you would like. Now, let me give you some context.
Jared King says, also pay attention to Sharpton interview on TMZ, where he said Nolan's phone was, quote, wiped, unquote, and realized Crump did his own forensics, and if it was indeed wiped, he could turn it over to the FBI. They know what's happening. They know what's going on. Mississippi knows what time it is, and they never anticipated that it was going to come this far. And now it's like they're almost playing desperate hands, which you'll see as you go through these letters, because they trying to set them up to pretty much miss a deadline. That's what this is all boiling down to. This is the setup to miss the deadline. But that doesn't refute the fact that you guys agreed to together check this phone. I wouldn't trust him as far as I could throw him. I mean, truthfully.
The agreement was made July the 15th. Nolan's parents and legal team have been waiting for a date after said agreement, meaning they're waiting on the DA. Now, what has happened between July the 15th and August the 11th? Well, the same thing that's been happening for the past couple of weeks. former Officer Tatum, the Morgan, Jax, and Warren, the 3 white boys that were on the boat, and their lawyers have been talking to the media, drumming up distractions. And also Warren's father, because now he's threatening to sue for defamation. So we've been having a lot of distractions. During these very, very overtly distracting interviews, podcasts, and media blitz, the latest one has been, hey, where's Nolan Wells' phone? And Christine hasn't handed it over to the DA. Of course, this has been led by former Officer Tatum, where he is trying to say that Christine is trying to interfere with the investigation. This is why this letter is so important. Nolan Wells' estate and parents and representatives had to come out and make it very clear through legal documents. Notice they're not playing the games of going back on media, going on Nancy Grace and doing all this stuff. No. They're about facts and receipts. So they sent this letter right here to say, hey, they actually highlighted the attacks. Let me get that here for you. To the extent there has been any suggestion that we have not been willing or have failed to cooperate with the investigation, we want to make it very clear that that is not the case. All right. So that was in response to former Officer Tatum, the white boys lawyer, we call him here on this channel, Little Tyler and Little Eddie. All right. You guys could check back on this page here to if you're not familiar with what's going on.
And I also find it very, very curious and very alarming, actually, that they're not talking enough about the fact that these white boys went out there and started up this give, send, go. And in the same breath, they're accusing the parents of using this situation to grift money, which is just a slap in the face. You mean to tell me that you are going to accuse these people who just lost their child? They lost their child. Oh, well, we'll just use this as a way to get paid. I'm sure if they had their way, they would give up every dollar, every cent to have their child back. But in that same breath, we've got the other side that's drumming up give, send, goes, for not only to have some kind of a legal defense, but also to go after content creators for reporting on this and sue them for defamation. You mean to tell me you're going to sue the whole internet? Now, there are people out there that are being very loose with their conversation. You don't come out and say this person did this, that, and the third without having facts to back you up. And by saying, "Oh yeah, they did it to him. They're the ones that did it to him." Okay, you have to have proof before you start saying those things. But there's nothing that says you can't ask questions. There are so many questions. There's more questions than answers, which will continue.
So this letter now was sent to the DA August the 11th. Now let's move on to another letter that was sent out by the same law firm representing Nolan and his parents, August the 13th. Now, please be clear, this is a separate letter than what I just showed you. You'll see the date at the top, August the 13th, and of course the writing, very different. And I'll read this to you pretty much in its entirety. Stick with me here because you're going to see and hear the corruption and cover up, okay? So it starts off, this is a letter to the DA, once again. Thank you for your correspondence dated August the 12th, 2026. As counsel for Nolan Wells, we have received it, etc. Now, let me just stop right there. Now, that means that the DA answered that first letter that I just showed you a minute or two ago, dated the 11th, saying, hey, we had an agreement. What's going on? We agreed to jointly look at Nolan's cell phone together. We're just waiting on a date and possibly having the FBI involvement. So The DA answered. The letter continues and says, "We agree that examination of Nolan Wells' cell phone was discussed during the July the 15th meeting." So we agree on that, okay? And that our team undertook to follow up concerning that process. During that discussion, however, we agreed to a jointly coordinated forensic examination of the phone that would include the use of the digital forensic lab at Mississippi Golf Course Community College, as well as possibility of the FBI involvement.
Okay, Jared says, right, go straight to the FBI with wiped phone. It's direct evidence in their hands of a crime on Nolan's phone and gets to the truth. And that's absolutely the truth. That's right. However, they can't just go straight to the FBI. They had to actually, pretty much in a nutshell, demand that the FBI take this case. They can't just run to the FBI. The FBI they've got 7 days to respond. As a matter of fact, 7 days from the date that they sent this notification to the FBI before the FBI can even get involved. You know what I'm saying? But in the meantime and in between time, they have to kind of hash this out between themselves. And the DA is playing games. Because there has been back and forth correspondence between both parties. In other words, the family has been asking for a date that we can amicably meet up. Amicably meet up. And they wait until 2 days before the deadline, after the parents have asked for, the date, and then advising that they're out of town, out of the country, as a matter of fact. And then they say, "Oh, well, they're out of the country. Let's give them this 24-hour thing, 24 hours, knowing that they're not back in time." That's the kind of games that they're playing. They knew that they were going to be out of town. Mississippi, the DA knew that they were going to be out of town.
Subsequent correspondence with your office reflected our continued willingness to process through a mutual agreeable procedure. Additionally, Mr. Hertz contacted you on July the 25th while traveling abroad and indicated that he would reconnect upon his return. Accordingly, our prior correspondence with your office should not be understood to suggest that our legal team had been unwilling to facilitate a forensic examination of the phone. That's very clear to say, hey, once again, we are not unwilling. We contacted you. We followed up with you here on July the 25th. Now, let's read between the lines on that July 25th. What would be fair to assume is that maybe somebody in the DA office contacted back with a proposed date. Mr. Hertz replied back. He's saying, hey, I'm abroad and we want to continue this conversation. They want to let them know that, hey, just because we're abroad and just because we weren't running to you does not mean that we're not willing. It just means that I was abroad and we are still very willing. Again,
here's my thing, you guys. We're doing all this talk about one phone. What's being done about them boys' phones? What's being done about their mammy's phones, their daddy's phones? The people that were, what happened to the 20 people that were with them? What about all those phones? They're concentrating on one phone to throw a monkey wrench in this whole case. But there's other people that need to be investigated as well. I'm curious, what's on those boys' phones? And they're not boys. I keep correcting myself about that. What's on their phones? What's on the parents' phones? If they check Wyatt's phone and find out that Wyatt contacted his grandpa simultaneously as the CETO call was about to go down or was going down, would they find that out? I mean, we kind of figured it out because Grandpa contacted CETO as Wyatt was on the other end with the dispatch. He calls the captain directly and says, oh, they don't need no help. Yeah. Is that available for people to hear as well? Are they going to find that out to be true? How would Grandpa know that the boy's boat was in distress, or that there was a need to contact Cito? Or could it be construed that maybe Wyatt was calling Grandpa in a panic? Something done happened on this boat. I don't know what to do, because Grandpa sells memberships to Cito. Hello to Great Master. It took me a minute to read your name. Hello, Rhonda. I'm trying to say hello to everyone. Let me get back to this. But yeah, look at everybody's doggone phone. I'd be questioning everybody's phone. Everybody got a phone. Sees all them phones. Sees Grandpa's phone. When you were on the phone with the captain to Cito, what prompted you to be on a call with him? What caused you and that man to have a conversation while your grandson is on the other line talking to dispatch? And then you cancel any assistance that he was asking for. Jared said, if you're going to claim a crime was committed on Nolan's phone and you have it, only reasonable to ask for you to prove it, and Crump can absolutely do that. Absolutely. But I would also like, if you're going to investigate this case, look at everybody's phone. Because we got three, 4 kids getting up here doing all these interviews, and ain't nobody checked them. Ain't nobody checked their phone. Who did they contact? All right. Why did you contact them? Who did you call before everybody went dark? Why did all the parents' phones and devices go dark, and the social media? Who made these phone calls to make that happen? See, I think more than just Nolan's phone needs to be checked. I think a lot of folks' phones need to be checked. I'm trying to click on.
And we do not know what the DA wrote back to them August the 12th, but we can assume that there was something that happened around July 25th, but they're making it very clear that does not mean that we are unwilling. To date, Nolan's parents remain willing to facilitate an appropriate forensic examination of Nolan's phone, including FBI involvement, according to our agreement on July the 15th. However, your letter sent to Eric Hurt on August the 12th at 12:51 p.m. Eastern Standard Time set a deadline for the Wansleys to deliver the phone to your office by August the 14th, 9 a.m. This is not practical for a number of reasons. Again, referring back to that August the 12th, I cannot wait until that letter is exposed because I want to know the details. But here we see them saying, hey, there was something going on July the 25th, and now you're sending us a letter saying, yo, we have 48 hours to bring in the phone. But here is where we get the confirmation, or in my opinion, confirmation that there is some misconduct and there is some cover up and there's some corruption going on. First, the date and time you proposed provided less than 48 hours notice. Moreover, the Wansleys were outside Mississippi when your letter was sent and are not scheduled to return until after the deadline you unilaterally imposed. You hear that? See that? Imposed? Now, let's take a second. This is the government. They know the movements and what is going on. I feel, in my opinion, that they're doing this purposely. They know they're out of town. They know they're traveling. And that is why they're giving them the 48-hour deadline. Second, the party never agreed to simply deliver the phone to your office. Instead, the agreement was that we would set a mutual agreeable date and time for the phone to be examined together by your office's forensic professionals, our forensic professionals, and the possibility of the FBI as well. Now, let's pause on that for a second. This letter that's sent August the 12th is saying you have 48 hours, and she is going back on her agreement. She is no longer saying, hey, you have 48 hours. Yeah, we're going to jointly do it. No.
That's operating in bad faith. If you had an agreement before, then to renege on that agreement is definitely not operating in good faith.
We have 48 hours to hand it over. We are no longer jointly doing it. That's where the corruption lies. But it gets worse. Thirdly, the parties have not yet agreed upon a forensic protocol addressing at a minimum the scope and the method of the examination, chain of custody, preservation of the forensic extraction, access to resulting forensic data, treatment of information outside the agreed scope, retention of the extraction, and the return of the device, Nolan's phone. Please send us your proposed protocol as soon as possible. As soon as the protocol is agreed upon, we will be able to schedule the forensic examination of the phone immediately. And by the way, I have another paragraph that's talking about Nolan Wells' autopsy, but just let me cook for 1 second here, okay? This is a clear indication, in my opinion, of corruption and a cover-up. Why are you agreeing July the 15th to jointly look at Nolan's phone? Then you guys continue on with your investigation. What did you find during that investigation?
Sorry about that. That's a very good question. Very good question. What happened that made you change up? Jared said, nobody said we have evidence of a crime other than Sharpton. No one. Exactly. Sharpton is not an attorney. He's a civil rights activist. He's not an attorney. Bradley says the fact they went back on their agreement proves the point. Lack of transparency. Small towns like that are corrupt a lot of times because it's a network from judges, cops, etc. Exactly. And that's, I mean, when you've got a small town like that, it's safe to say that if they're moving like a duck, then quacking like a duck and walking like a duck, chances are it's a duck. Xavier Quest says all the boys turned over their phones. Nolan's is the only phone not turned over. And where is that documentation at? Or is that just you saying it? Where are you getting your information from? Where is that documented? Because we're speaking facts. We're not speaking assumptions. We're not speaking about I heard or Nene said or none of that. So if you can say that something has happened, you should be able to say when, where, and who can prove it. As I digress.
What changed from July the 15th to, yeah, we'll do it together, to like, yo, send me the phone right now. And now you do not want to go over the chain of custody. You don't want to go over protocol. You don't want to do nothing. You want to give Christine 48 hours while she's out of town. We all know she's out of town. We're all following her on her socials. We're all seeing the press conference. We all see that. And this is just us, civilians. Yo.
JP says he heard Tatum say that. That's funny because Tatum also said they took polygraph tests, and that turned out to be a lie. Sorry about that. Let me get this back on.
All know exactly what's going on. Y'all are tracking their every movement, and that is when you want to send a letter saying, hey, you have 48 hours. What do you know that we don't know? What does the judge, what do those lawyers know? What's on Nolan's phone that you do not want us to see? And it's you not wanting us to see it, because if you do it without Christine there, you can hold it private. I think they're not only just keeping it from Christine, they're keeping it from us, because the DA and Mississippi and everybody involved knows that this fight is no longer just with Christine.
Jared said Sharpton is not an attorney and Crump doesn't have Mississippi bar license. So what? He's standing up on a stage with them at every conference, and a huge part of this case is that phone was wiped. Exactly, but however, here's the deal about Crump and his Mississippi bar license. He is partnered with an attorney that does have bar license. I'm being abundantly that the family is saying that Nolan's phone said it has criminal activity on it that could bring them much closer to truth, but they're withholding it. No, they're withholding it until they come to they're supposed to be doing this mutually together. Both sides are supposed to be doing this together, and now someone is reneging on that deal.
And the family and Benjamin Crump, they know that they're battling the world. They're battling social media. They're battling me and you. They're not afraid of Christine. They're not afraid of even Benjamin Crump. Why do you think every single time Christine, Elmore, or Benjamin get in front of a microphone, they start out by saying, thank you to the content creators. Thank you to the YouTubers. Thank you to the TikTokers. Thank you for keeping Nolan Wells' name in the media. Christine and Elmore know that this fight is us against them. And the DA knows that if we, the public, dare find out what's on Nolan's phone, this case goes from national to international, and the whole entire world, if not already, will have their eyes on Mississippi. And they know that. That's why they sent out that letter August the 12th. And I cannot wait for Benjamin Crump and his team to expose that letter. I love the strategicness of just putting out this letter and letting us know that there's something August the 12th and not putting it out. They're taking a different approach from the other side, because the other side is going on podcasts, Nancy Grace, whoever, and they're talking. Nah, Benjamin Crump is taking it legal, and I love the strategy. What is Mississippi hiding, covering up in Nolan Wells' phone? Now, another brilliant move, they refer back to the autopsy, which is what I think, and I'm sure what you think, more corruption and more cover-up. Let's go to that. Regarding Dr. Roger Mitchell, our independent doctor doing the independent second autopsy, we appreciate that you will be making available Nolan's body parts that were not previously sent to Dr. Roger Mitchell. As reflected in your July the 29th correspondence, another correspondence that we're not privy to, by the way, your office previously stated that Dr. Roger Mitchell would have an opportunity to examine Nolan's complete body in advance of any grand jury testimony. Once again, they are going back on their word. Benjamin Crump and his team, Nolan's estate lawyers, have a letter or correspondence July the 29th saying your office previously stated that Dr. Mitchell would have an opportunity to examine Nolan's complete body in advance of any grand jury testimony.
Let's see. Bradley said this. The point is the state is not keeping its word. That's why this is a mess. Corruption. Where I live, we have a case right now of a sergeant cop false claiming a teen had a gun. Body cam was on. It's really unfortunate, but what are they hiding? What are they hiding? But you're absolutely right, Bradley. Wonder Woman Enlightenment. I hope I said that right. Right. What is Mississippi hiding? What is the Mississippi Medical Examiner hiding? Seems like Mississippi justice is only for one kind, not equal justice. Amen. That's what it looked like. Oh, Lady Letitia. Hello, my love. Thank you so much for the $10 super chat. God bless you, sweetheart. At the movies. Well, have a good time, sweetheart. Thank you. Hold on just a second. Let me get back to this.
Why do they want to not do that anymore? Because they want to keep it sealed. You see the corruption? You see the cover up? Before, okay, we'll do his phone jointly. Okay, we'll let you look at the body. Now, nope, that's done. Nope. We want his phone and we want his body to ourselves. Could you imagine? Put yourself in the situation of Christine right now. Imagine the state that you live in, the state that you pay taxes in. Christine and Elmore's taxes go to be paying the DA, her salary, the people who work for her, their salary. And this is what they get back in return. This is disgusting. At this time, Dr. Roger Mitchell requests that you provide 3 additional dates in which he can examine the body parts that he has not been able to assess. We are prepared to move that process forward promptly through counsel. And I love that they're doing it through counsel because no, we're not going to trust you sending text messages and stuff. No. Do this through counsel, not through Nancy Grace. Not through former Officer Tatum. No, we want this on record. Thank you for following up with us regarding the threats and the intimidation against Nolan's family. That was a paragraph that I didn't want to read before because I don't actually even believe that they're following up. I feel like the lawyers are just trying to be nice. The family and legal team remained committed to a careful and complete investigation of the circumstances surrounding Nolan's passing. We believe the most productive path forward is focused, documented cooperation on matters that will materially advance the investigation while preserving the integrity of the evidence and the legal rights and obligation of everybody involved. Basically, AKA, stop talking to Nancy Grace and former Officer Tatum. We want to bring this back to legal procedures. But nah, they don't want to bring this back to normal procedures. They don't want to bring this back to legitimacy. They don't want to bring this back to their agreement they had July the 15th. Why? Because I believe that the cover-up and the corruption is right in front of your faces. This was my case that I presented to you. Here it is in black and white.
All right, y'all. I'm going to go ahead and end his part. I'm going to end his part, but I do want to share a couple of other things you might find interesting. This is from, what's her name? Nerdy Pink Panda. Nerdy Pink Panda. She's been really on this thing from day one. Okay, now TikTok is hard to stop and start a video, so bear with me. Okay, here we go, y'all. Wait, let me make sure. I don't know if I've got this set up to where. Put a 1 in the chat. I'm gonna start this video, but put a 1 in the chat if you can hear. Can you guys hear this? Put a 1 in the chat if you can hear. No sound? Okay, let me try this again. Let me remove it. Hold on just a second. Okay, I'm going to share the screen again. For some reason, okay. Okay, that was the problem. It wasn't sharing the audio. Okay, my bad, you guys. My bad. Okay, start from the beginning.
Oh, these little liars. I told y'all that Jax was the ringleader. I told y'all. He sat in this interview and he was telling stories about shit that he wasn't even there to witness. So let's break down some of the stuff that I heard in this interview. Let's start with Warren's first phone call, because y'all will remember that Warren said that he was over at Ava's house for that 4th of July party when they all started realizing that Nolan was missing, and he called Miss Christine at 11 o'clock.
One of the first things I told Miss Christine Wells in the first phone call that ever occurred with anything to do with Nolan Wells being gone, because I was the first person to call Miss Christine about anything. First phone call, anything to do with Nolan Wells, was me making a phone call to Christine Wells. And one of the first things I said to her, with multiple witnesses here, pull up the phone call if you want. She said, oh, well, Nolan's location is with y'all at, where the house we were at. And I was like, well, no, he left his phone with us. I told her this.
And yesterday, the same time that this interview came out, Christine Wells said this.
360 says that he's on land, and he was like, well, no, I mean, well, we have his phone.
So both versions of the story say that Warren didn't tell her about the phone until after she confronted him with the 360. Now, Warren tells Miss Christine that he knows somebody in the Coast Guard and that he's going to call them, which is very fucking different than calling the Coast Guard, which absolutely explains why the Coast Guard came out and said at first that they had not received a call from the kids that night. The Coast Guard's initial statement said they weren't informed until 12:30. Then the Coast Guard later changed their story and said, oh wait, actually we did. And it seems to me that that first call was most likely an off the record to a friend kind of deal, which means these people freaked out and didn't call the Coast Guard until after all these people showed up at Jax's house. Which would explain why in the course of this interview it went from Warren called the Coast Guard to we did. Now, when the subject turns to how the family got the phone back from these boys, you'll notice that there was a couple slip-ups.
Warren, you weren't at the house, and so you weren't there when they came to get the phone and all that. So
now remember, Warren just said that he wasn't at the house when the phone was got. And then Morgan talks about getting a phone call from one of the people in Christine Wells' group.
And how did they get the phone back?
So I got a call from a kid we went to high school with. He called me just asking me questions. He saw people posting on Snapchat, like the picture that was circulating.
Except this picture wasn't posted until July 5th. Well, how could this picture have been circulating on Snapchat that night? But let's continue.
And he called and he was asking questions. He was like, where's Nolan? When's the last time y'all seen him? And then he was like, so where are y'all at? And I told him, I said, we're at Jax's house. And then Warren got on the phone, and I don't know.
So they come to my house, right? And they kind of hold on before we get there. Was it confrontational or was it just just trying to find? It was confrontational.
Yeah,
already?
wouldn't y'all agree?
Yeah,
he was 110%. He was very confrontational.
And when did this was
Okay, Jared said Jax has great defamation suit against her, calling him leader of murder ring. Not smart. I agree.
on the night of the 4th or the next
this
day?
was the night when this was before they came and got the phone.
So this is the night of the 4th, yes.
You guys are missing a part of the story. How did you get from Ava's house to Jax's house? Because Miss Christine is watching you guys on the Life 360. So suddenly she's seeing the phone leave one location and go to another. Of course I would be upset. And now all of a sudden Warren is there when the phone stuff starts happening. He's listening to the phone call. Now I need y'all to remember that Warren also said that the phone was in his truck on the first conversation, as we have from this report. Meaning if we were to believe Warren that he was not there when everybody showed up looking for the phone at some time in between 11 and 1 a.m. So then that would mean after they heard this angry phone call, Warren gets the phone out of his vehicle and puts it in Jack's house and then...
Okay. Nicole says, I don't know why people can't get past the part of these young men being gone and Nolan was seen by other friends and witnesses on the island alive around 6 p.m. Are you speaking about those two people, Nicole? The two people that they came forward a couple days after, oh God, what is my memory's leaving me. 2 days after something happened. I can't recall. But anyway, is that what you're talking about? And then she said, and the woman wrote the unknown male who was seen with Nolan and said, me and my husband saw you with Nolan. The unknown male still hasn't been identified. Okay, where is all, I'm not straight as to where all this is coming from, Nicole. Can you tell me where you saw that at?
Leaves.
There's probably like 10, 15 people in my house I don't even know. And they're all up in our faces, going crazy, asking where Nolan is, and we don't know. And finally they get into Wyatt's face, and they're like, where's your boat? Where's the boat at?
Demanding his address.
Demanding his address and stuff like that. And he finally ends up giving it to them. We give them the phone. They have the phone at this point. Then they get the address to his house. Then they go to his house. And they're searching all over his boat, what I heard and stuff like that. Well, anyways, I don't really know much about that, but they...
Okay, Bradley said that came from one of the boys' lawyers. I ain't saying nothing. I don't trust them lawyers as far as we can throw them. They in it for a check as far as I'm concerned. That's my opinion.
They come back to my house at around 1 o'clock in the morning.
We called law enforcement. I was with Wyatt at the time after we left Jax's house that night. I was with Wyatt, and one person we were with saw that their location was headed towards Wyatt's house. And so Wyatt got on the phone with 911 and was like, hey, these people are on the way to my house or already at my house. My mom and my dad are there alone, and they know nothing about this.
Actually, you know what, Jared? Jared said something that makes a lot of sense. Could also believe one of the witnesses is Katie. If you believe Tatum really say texts from her saying Nolan didn't get on the boat. Certainly don't have to believe him, though. I get it. And that's the thing. If that's the case, then we need to hear from Katie. Katie's the only one that ain't nobody heard nothing from. I'm sure if she has information that could verify and I mean, turn that into the police or whoever, that would exonerate the boys right off the bat. But again, it's a lot of people saying things, but nobody's coming forth with any actual verification. You know what I'm saying?
But Wyatt's mom actually, when they were looking at the boat, they were actually walking from the boat, and she came out and started talking to them.
Okay, so let me get this straight. Wyatt, Morgan, and Jax were all together. Warren was gone for some reason at this point. 10 to 15 people just barge into your house. Don't know why your grandparents weren't around. That might explain some things, huh? Guess y'all had the house all to your fucking self that weekend. But then they ask Wyatt for his address so that they can go look at the boat. Wyatt gives them the address. They start heading over there. Wyatt and Morgan get into a car and leave Jax's house. Somebody else that you were with that we aren't hearing about is tracking someone else's phone. I don't know if it was somebody who was with the group that they had access to, or if they were tracking Nolan's phone and they saw it was heading to Wyatt's house. And even though Wyatt gave them the address, and instead of calling his parents, he calls 911 and tells them, my parents don't know anything about that's going on. Can you send police over there? Now, mind you, it was about half an hour after being on the phone with Warren that Christine was able to actually call and report him missing. But she was having to go back and forth and go down to all these different agencies because nobody would fucking help her.
That's the part that really got to me when I watched the press conference that they recently had, and she was giving her rendition of what went down that night, and she was saying everywhere she went, she kept saying she said that they kept passing the buck. Well, we don't handle that. You got to go talk to this agency or whatever, and she would go to them, and no, that's not in our jurisdiction. You got to go to this jurisdiction. She was passed around, and I thought that was just sick. I thought that was sick.
I want to know why all of this confrontation was left out of the fucking report. Like, if this family had to be removed from 2 different properties by the police, why is there no record of that? And in fact, it wasn't until after these confrontations that MDMR and Ocean Springs Police apparently had their little conversations about who was going to be taking over the case. Because remember, the Jackson County Sheriff Lieutenant told them that deputies had spoken with several friends that had traveled to the island on the vessel with Nolan, and that when they were left, he was in the company of an unknown female. So now, even though Warren had supposedly called the Coast Guard, all these family members are telling the police that the kid is missing. These are the people that last saw them. They're all like, we last saw him on the island. Still, the deputies said that they did not have reason to believe that there was any water-related exigencies or emergencies. Don't worry, y'all. I've got a lot fucking more to say about this stuff. So come back for part 2. I'm going to be immediately recording it because Warren fucked up.
Uh-oh. I didn't mean to cut it off that quick. Okay.
Where we had left off, Warren had already called Miss Christine, and then they somehow ended up at Jax's grandparents' house. That's where they all stayed that weekend, and so that's why Nolan's keys were over there. They had to have been at the grandparents' house, who mysteriously never showed up during any of these confrontations. Somehow the phone had gone from the party that they were all at to Jax's place, and then Warren left after a phone call to Morgan. According to them, 10 to 15 people showed up and just walked into Jax's house and demanded the phone. Wyatt gave the address in which the boat was at. They all start migrating over there. Then Morgan and Wyatt and another friend are tracking their 360s and seeing that they're going over to Wyatt's house. Then they call 911 to tell them that the police are on the way to his house. Then they're searching the boat, and then they come back to Jax's house around 1 o'clock in the morning, according to him. Mind you, that's when they explain to the police about their friend being missing. And so then the report says at 1:38 in the morning, the Jackson County Sheriff's Office say that they spoke to several of the friends that were on the vessel with Nolan, saying that he was in the company of an unknown female. But Morgan, Jax, and Warren all claimed that they did not travel to the island on the same boat as Nolan. So who did they talk to? Because it sounds to me like they had told the police that they were on the same boat as him. Keeping in mind that this is what Warren told Miss Christine.
Named Katie. And so then it turned into, Katie is also missing. No one can find her. And the explanation of no one knows this Katie, like we've never met her.
And Tristan said this.
I was talking on my other buddy's phone,
That's what I found odd, that they played it off like Katie was some random girl that nobody knew. But yet they were still in contact with her, text messaging and back and forth. That was odd.
To Warren, he was dialing Coast Guard because he hung up the phone and was like, hey, this is them, bye, and hung up the phone. And that was the last time I talked to him.
Mind you, Tristan is friends with Katie. They are mutuals. I have confirmed this. So now that we've got that timeline fucking straight, let's back up to something that Warren said during this interview.
If you're motivated enough to do it, yeah. Like, I made a phone call to my mom, and I had to call her like 8 times before she picked up because either her service was bad because she was on the back side of the aisle on the south side, or my service was bad. And
okay. Warren just said that his mom was on the island as well. Mom was on the island as well. Okay.
it was just hard to get through.
Do y'all see that? Let me play it again slower for you.
Either her service was bad because she was on the back side of the aisle on the south side, or my service was bad, and it was just hard to get through.
Oh no. Not only did Warren confirm that his mom was on the south side of the island, but Warren himself said that if you're motivated enough, you can call somebody. I tried calling my mom 8 times. Yet this is what he said last time.
A little off the island. you have cell coverage. And even on the island, like I called my mom when we were on the island, you know, it was fine.
So which is it? Did you call your mom with ease, or did you try to call her 8 times because you were motivated to get in touch with her? But Warren wasn't the only one to slip up, because listen.
And he's on the phone with Cito, and he's trying to get them on the phone. And as he stated in the moment, he's like, Cito's just asking all these dumb questions. I can't like figure out what's going on. And so finally hangs up. And after the trim to the motor started to work again. So they manually trim it down by the buttons on the motor, trimmed it down, and some electronics started to come back on. And they got the boat to crank over, and they're like, all right, untie us.
So first off, Jax just proved that the boys put the phone on mute during the call with Cito, because I've listened to the entire 8-minute call, and at no point does they ever say anything about them asking all these stupid questions. Then he said after they hung up on the Cito, that's when it started working again, and they said, okay, untie us, implying that it had been tied up to the other boat the entire time. But we see in this video that they are hauling the line back in right here as he's on the phone. See, you can see right here where the line is being pulled in from across the way where the boat is stationed. Meaning he had already hung up with Cito at that point, and he had to have been on the phone with someone else. And what we see here is, once again, we have an interview where they go into so much detail about stuff that doesn't fucking matter.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and first off explain a boat.
We fucking get how a bilge pump works. We get it by now. Stop fucking talking about the bilge pump. What we actually want to hear about is the multiple stops that were made before ending up back at the grandparents' house before they even took the boat to the boat dock. We want you guys to explain how the Cito was canceled by the grandfather on the captain's private line before you guys had even hung up with Cito. That's why nobody believes a fucking word that you are saying. Because I showed y'all yesterday how AI had clearly doctored these photos. If you missed it, look, silver pole. Look, no silver pole. It's actually white. And if you look at this picture in the grandparents' driveway of the Triton, you will see that the little handrails are not leaning over. You will see that the rails are going straight up and down and not leaning, which is why I also suspect that the identity of whoever this is was intentionally covered up. Because first off, who wears this weird swimsuit thing? This is somebody who, if they were with them, would have stood out in a crowd. But this woman who's in a red striped swimsuit with a white baseball cap shows up in a lot of different pictures, just oh so obscured. Here she is again, handing out beers on Bart's boat. So I personally suspect that whoever that was in fact on the Triton, and they used AI to change her clothing and to obscure her identity. Because I think this was either Warren's mother or Wyatt's stepmother, which would explain the older female voice people have said they've heard on the Cito. Because otherwise, why would he need to call his mother 8 times? Unless, according to his own words,
If you're motivated enough to do it, yeah.
ADHD everything says, is this old news? I mean, so many people have died since this Nolan kid. I wonder why they are not national news. Well, go chase that news. Okay? If you don't want to hear about this, why are you here? For real. Why are you here? You don't want to hear old news? Then go find some new news. Get out of here.
because remember, there is a 4th boat out there. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Holy fuck, I just accidentally stumbled onto something that literally is concrete proof. Oh my God, next video coming. Oh my God! Where we had left off, Warren had already called Miss...
Okay, that's it for her. That's it for her. Now, I could go ahead. I got one more to play. Why not? We'll just play this last one.
All right, I don't want to leave you guys hanging, so why don't I just try and post this picture of the bow of the Triton, and let's see if you guys see what I see. Right here and right here. There's 2 of them. And look how deep they go. Maybe that's why Wyatt started freaking out and called 911 when they said they were going to go over and search the boat. Don't worry, I'll be back to talk about it and elaborate and go over some new timeline stuff tomorrow. But I should also mention that they are designed to hold fish.
All right, you guys. That is going to be the end of it for me. I think it's time to go and have something to eat. It's been real. I really appreciate all of you that came by and hung out with me this afternoon. Thank you for all the comments. Thank you for all the support. If you didn't hit the like button, please do so on your way out. If you'd like to subscribe to my channel, please do so. I appreciate the support. And again, we're just going to keep Nolan's name out there until they come up with a solution to what all happened. Okay? Because this is happening far too much in the South, especially in Mississippi. I mean, come on now. Y'all think what you want, but black folks is still being hunted. Let's be real about it. Black folks is still being hunted. And if you don't want to believe that, then that's your prerogative. You know, until it turns up to be one of your people. And then what you gonna do then? Anyway, I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. And thank you for those that are very courteous. Whether you have a difference of opinion or not, being respectful means the world. So again, thank you so much. And you guys have a blessed day. Be safe out there. Keep Nolan in your hearts and prayers and his family.
Hey there, my kinfolk. Thanks for stopping by. Auntie Mickey's house, where we reach for the sky. Every comment and smile, you make my heart glow. Together we're strong, together we grow. From gossip to politics, we cover it all. Sharing laughs and thoughts, having a ball. Your support means everything that I know. Feels like family here in this sweet show. So let's keep it flowing. Keep the love alive. Every moment together makes me thrive. You're more than viewers, you're my kinfolk. You see, my gratitude runs deep as the sea. Thank you for being here, for sharing your time with each comment, with each rhyme. You're my kinfolk, my family, my crew. So much love to all of you. Turn up the camera, let's make it bright. Your support lifts me up, takes flight.